Thanks so very, very much, Katie. I've got the great pleasure now to introduce our next speaker, Marwan Rechmaoui. Marwan studied fine art in the United States and lives and works in Beirut. His work often deals with themes of urban development, social history. He has taken part in many, many exhibitions, some unveiled, new art from the Middle East, the Sharjah Biennial, homeworks in Beirut, and the Townhouse Gallery in Cairo. We would like to take this opportunity to thank Marwan very, very deeply for his extraordinary residency. It was wonderful to have him in London for several months as part of the Serpentine Gallery Edgware Road project at the Center for Possible Studies, where a public conversation also took place, which was all about maps. Marwan had filled the Edgware Road Center of Possible Studies with all kinds of map-related works. Some of them will be presented also today. His residency in the Edgware Road was undertaken with Ashkar Alwan, the Lebanese Association for Plastic Arts, an important partner for our work on the Edgware Road project. A very warm welcome to Marwan Rechmaoui.
Hello. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. Right, let's start. Okay. We're here to talk about and examine the concept of mapping and the various ways of mapping. Of course, we have created different kinds of maps: world maps, geopolitical maps, city and street maps. Owner manuals are a sort of a map, etc. I've been attending the marathon for the 2 days, sitting in the balcony section, and every now and then I peek down to the floor to see if there is someone I can recognize. Then I realized that I'm looking at an audience map. Maps make us feel safe. The idea of controlling space gives us security. We also encounter that with photography and time, a combination of both. Or maybe it's the distance, or maybe the altitude that make us feel superior, or maybe because we are not seen, we are invisible, and that's why we feel safe. Anyway, today I will be talking about a specific map, the fragmented map of the city of Beirut that you see on the screen. Since I think that cities are composed of words and architecture, I will try to draw a map of Beirut by spoken words. Okay. So that's how it works. So Beirut is composed of 60 different pieces. So there's not going to be enough time to talk about all of them. So when Sarah Jane tells me to stop, I'll just stop. We'll see how much we can fit. Okay. This area, it's called Al-Bashura. Al-Bashura is an architectural term used in medieval and pre-modernist kind of architecture. It's basically an L-shaped entrance to a house or to a fortress. In the case of houses, old cities in the Middle East at least, the houses were on narrow alleys and the doors were facing each other. So the only way to protect the interior is to make an L-shaped entrance, so when you open the door, the person outside cannot see the inside. You have to bear left for 1 meter so you can be inside the house. In the case of fortresses or military use, it's used to reduce the momentum and speed of the attacking enemy. In case they broke the gates, and they want to go in, then they have to turn left, so they have to go 1 by 1 or 2 by 2, so you can control their speed. So the myths say that in Al-Bashura area there used to be a fortress in the old times, and the gates of this fortress were made in the L shape that we are talking about. It's located almost in central Beirut. This is section 11, and Nijme. Nijme means a star. This plaza in central downtown Beirut, it was called the Birds Plaza until the 1920s. And it was called the Birds Plaza because it had a lot of trees, and people used to put glue sticks on the trees to catch birds and sell them. So it was the Birds Plaza. Then it was paved in the mid-1830s by the Egyptian it was not an occupation, whatever it was called, by the Egyptians who were controlling Syria at that time, before the Ottomans take it back. Then in the 1920s, the French mandate decided to renovate the plaza and build a similar one to the French Place d'Étoile. So this is why we call it the Star, or the Nijm, because it's like the Étoile. It have the Parliament House, and it's like the central point of Beirut. Okay, Sector 12 is Al-Majidiyya. Al-Majidiyya is a name. It's named after the Sultan, the Ottoman Sultan Abdul Majid. So they built a mosque in that area named after him, so it was called Majidiyya. And it's one of the oldest sections of Beirut, the same like the previous one. It still have an old mosque because everything around it was destroyed, either with time or with the civil war. But the mosque, because it's a religious institute, even if it got destroyed, it have to be rebuilt again. Nothing, it does not disappear. It was right on the corner of the old walls of Beirut, and it stayed there while the rest of the walls were gone. This is Minat al-Hassan. This is the area right next to the one we saw earlier, and it's part of the old city of Beirut. It's called Min al-Hassan, which means the fortress port, because again there was the fortress on the side of this. And there was a chain that was going from the fortress to the bridge to the tower in the water, so you can lock the entrance of the port in case of emergencies. Of course, nothing of that is left, only the previous mosque we talked about earlier. This is Bab Idris. Bab means door, and Bab Idris means Idris's door. And Idris is a Lebanese Beiruti family that they came originally from Morocco, and they settled in Beirut in the 1700s. And they became one of the influential and, very big Beiruti families. And they controlled this neighborhood on the edge of the old city, which had a gate. That's why it's named Bab Idris. It's their gates. And they used to charge toll fees for entrance and leaving. This is Kantari. Kantari is on the border of the old city. It's relatively newer. It's also named after a Beiruti family, Kantari family. And it's basically a residential area. It have a lot of mansions, a lot of deluxe buildings, and it's strictly residential. Sarai means the Serai, which is the palace or the governor's house. It's an area in central Beirut. It have the Sarai, which was built in the 1850s or 60s probably, when the Ottomans tried to, after they took over Syria and Lebanon from the Egyptians, they were trying to make up for the modernization that the Egyptians brought to Beirut. So they had to do some reforms and some urban planning of the city. So they built the Saraya by a famous architect. His name is Yusuf Aftimos. This is Al-Batrakiye. Batrakiye means patriarch. And it's an area where it housed the convents of the Patriarch Church, which is a Catholic church, a local Catholic church in Beirut that works with the French missionary churches that they were based in Beirut. It's a residential area that have a lot of schools also. Mainly residential, middle class to upper class residential area. This is Al-Basta Al-Tahta. Basta means flat land or how you say, like a stand for vegetables, where you sell vegetables on. So the myths say that this area was a flat land, and another myth say that it was full of vegetable sellers who used to put their stuff on a basta and sell it there. There is the Basta Al-Tahta, which is the lower basta, and the Fawqa Basta, which is the upper basta. And they serve the same thing. It used to be a village outside of Beirut until the 1800s, mid-1800s, when Beirut expanded and this part became part of inner Beirut. This is Al-Basta Al-Fawqa, the other basta which is up the hill, the upper one. This is an area in the central downtown Beirut. It's called Mar Maroon. Mar means saint, and Maroon is one of the saints that the Maronite Catholic sect follow it in Lebanon. It's basically empty now. It was like the center of Beirut where it witnessed the first 2 years of civil war, and it had to be demolished in the mid-90s to accommodate new structures in that area, but it's still an empty piece of land, among other pieces that we will encounter now. This is Jummaize. Jummaize is on the edge of the old city, which is like, we can say, the middle city, because there is the new city also. Jummaize used to be, it have all the workshops and stables and all the crafts that cater for the rich families who lived up the hill from this area, because this one is almost sea level. Until recently, probably in 2002 or 2003, it was revived into a night scene. So when you go to Beirut, you must visit Jummaize to go out for pubs and clubbing and all that stuff. It stays up late at night. This is Ain Limraisi. Ain means eye, or it means a spring, a water spring. So there's many rumors about this area, why it's named like that. And Mraisi means a rope, but a small, how do you say, like smaller, when you have something big and something a little bit smaller. So a small rope, let's say. So basically it's a port for fishermen, and they say that there was an old lady there who had a house before the whole area was occupied, and her name was finished with a Mraisi word, so that's why they named it after her, because there is also the spring of this lady. The other story is because you tie the boats to the port so they won't drift away when it's windy. This is Al-Jami'a. This is basically the real estate of the American University of Beirut. It was donated in the 1860s. The piece of land was donated by a Beiruti landowner. It was lent forever to the American University of Beirut faculty, under the condition that all his children and his grandchildren will go for free to this university. So it's now owned by the American University, and the children of the previous owner are studying there for free. The university was built in 1863, basically, when the Anglican missionaries came from the United States to Beirut. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, it's affiliated to a university in Boston. I'm not really sure if to MIT, I'm not sure. forget about that. But anyways, there was a big competition around that time between the Anglicans and the Jesuits, of course, French and Americans. After 4 years from building this university, the Jesuits built another university just as big and with a good curriculum, just on the other side of the city in eastern Beirut, so they won't lose the students for the Anglicans. This is the Jumblat area. Jumblat is a family name. It's a Druze family from the Mount Lebanon, from the Shuf area. It's a dynasty that's been taking care of the Druze sect since the late 1700s. Until today, the Druze sect is represented by Walid Jumblat, who is the grandson of the first one who built the dynasty. We stop? Thank you very much.